This is the first day of the February 89 3-day retreat. I'm wondering if everybody is having a comfortable seat. And if not, please feel free to bring in a chair. And feel free to change your postures anytime that it pinches too much. Because it's much, much easier and freer to listen openly when the body doesn't ache. When the body doesn't ache, and then the additional thought, I ought to be sitting in a certain posture. That's more ache. Pain is like a dry sponge. It takes a lot of energy to be with. And then there may not be the energy available for open listening. We didn't have an opening talk last night because most people, or many people, came late. And we agreed that whatever had to be said would be said ahead of time by the coordinators, or that I could incorporate into this first talk what I felt was necessary to say. There are some new people here. And people who have been here before, if the listening is open and not impatient to hear something new, then one may see something in what is said now. I'm sure everyone is aware that the retreat is in silence, that we don't talk to each other except during meetings or in case of an emergency. And then please to talk with a person in a separate room, step into a bedroom or coordinate a room, the meeting room if it is free. Other than that, please use pencil and paper. And also in walking around, in and out of doors, can that happen with care, quietly, which means listening to the sounds that emanate from one's movements and what one comes in touch with, like a door or the floor or a bowl. Not I must be quiet, I must be attentive, but listen to the sounds in a caring way, in a considerate way. Listening together. Maybe that's what consideration means. I'm not quite sure, but listening and living together, sensitive to each other. About meetings, there are 3 days. We hope it'll be possible to have 1 meeting a day for each person. So to keep the meeting time not over 15 minutes if possible. It may go over, well then next time we'll maybe go under. And also please, for both of us to watch the clock. It's not easy to watch the clock and to remember what all this means on that dial, but it's possible. So it's not just up to Toni to terminate a meeting. Both of us, be aware when the time is up. As for what can be brought up in meetings, the answer is anything. There is nothing taboo. Nothing can bring up what you feel like or need to bring up. There's no requirement, no expectation of my part for what you should be doing or for what we should be doing. We'll find out when we're together what's coming up. Inevitably, because of our age-old conditioning, people tell me this all the time, there's some apprehension of fear, nervousness, sitting in the solarium, and one's time coming up for a meeting. Can one look at that? Not just feel, I wish I wouldn't have that, I would be better without it. Give explanations for it. But to be with it completely, not as a handicap, something that shouldn't be. Just including it in this wholeness of being. It is part of it. Just as the tick in the radiator or the blue jays calling, the heart pounding, thoughts going through the mind. What am I going to say? She likes good questions. My question may not be as good as someone else's. Just to see all of that. To hear it. Be in touch with what goes on without taking any action for it, against it. Is that possible? Not to say yes it is or no it isn't. One has to find out whether there can be nervousness coming up, anxiety, and it's felt and listened to like the blue jay calling, like the breath or feeling in the knees, the warmth of the sunshine on the body, the brilliance of the day. Out of meetings with participants in this retreat, in every retreat comes the substance for the talks. I hope nobody minds that. I usually talk in terms of I hope nobody minds it. People have meanwhile told me that they sort of get a rush when their question comes up. Oh, she took mine. And feeling good about this. Not that one shouldn't feel this way, but can every detail be seen and let go? Not a thing made out of it. We do feel good if we think we're important. That's that. Can it be seen and let go of? So it doesn't become a deeper and deeper and deeper track in the mind. Deeper and deeper happens when we think more and more and more about it in order to feel good again and again and again. Then something physiologically deepens or thickens, and the likelihood of its coming up becomes greater and greater. That's how it seems to work. So to feel a pride coming up or feeling embarrassed, angry, and to completely see it and be done with it. Is that possible? Is that humanly possible? We're asking that here. Not it is or it isn't. There is a break that I take during meeting time. Usually I either walk around or walk before the walking starts while people are sitting, just to be in here quietly without talking with whoever is sitting here. It's nice to be in this quiet room, look out of the window and just stand silently with someone. There's no more meaning to that than that. I hope everyone knows that there is no requirement to sit here in this room. The only schedule that is somewhat binding is the half hour during which food is put out, to be there at that time. If one oversleeps through the meeting time in the morning, please contact the coordinator and it'll be possible to go in at another time. Neither meetings nor attendance at talks is required at all. It's up to each one. We always say something on the first day about the relationship between you and me. You may think this is old hat, why does she bring it up again? It's such a crucial thing to find clarity about. Because this relationship between someone sitting in front of a group with a microphone to his or her side, everyone else listening quietly, this situation is fraught with imagery. Whether we want it or not, an image comes up. And can one use this phenomenon of making images about a person who is talking and oneself listening quietly in a large hall? Can one use this situation to investigate the power of image? What one projects onto that person, regardless of what one knows about her. One doesn't have to know the one who is speaking at all. One can have ideas in the mind and react to those ideas without ever knowing that person. So can one give the most careful attention to that, to this phenomenon? Not just projecting images on the person who is talking, but upon oneself, listening. A variety of images. One doesn't just have one. One has many, and they're in contradiction with each other. I want somebody to tell me what to do or what is the truth. I don't want anybody to tell me. I want authority to follow. I don't want any authority in my life. I want to be on the same level with this person. And yet, is one? Or is one making something out of oneself and this person? and thereby creating different levels in the mind. It's such rich soil for looking and learning as one goes. It doesn't need to be accumulated in the mind. We talked about that before. A lot of accumulation means a lot of tracks and a lot of possibility for another projection the next time. So how do we relate with each other? How do we see each other? Listen to each other? I'm not talking onto you. I'm part of this. What is in people's minds is part of what is talked about, part of what is in this mind. Our minds, even though they seem to be so different, are really so much alike. These mechanisms that we're talking about, remembering and the building of traces and the projections, the fear and nervousness, wanting to be important, wanting to be liked and approved of, and the fear that one will not be, and the actions that come out of all of these thoughts. This is common to all of us, to one degree or another, a little bit more in one area and a little bit less in another area for different people. But it's fundamentally there in all of us. So the fact that someone is talking is also the fact that someone is looking at her mind or his mind. And body, the body goes with every thought. It brings up hosts of feelings, sensations, and emotions just with one thought. The thought may have escaped the attention, but the body is vibrating with fear or anger, and one says, I don't know why. So can one give careful attention to what goes on in the body, not zeroing in on one detail, but allowing everything to reveal itself in the light of day as it comes up, as it happens, without fussing over it. I don't like it. I want to be rid of this. This is good. I need to work on this and strengthen it and be more like that. This brings us to two questions which have come up this morning. And let me say that I do not remember statements verbatim. So please don't feel that you were misunderstood because the question is being restated. There may be other rivulets into this mainstream of a question from other people, so the question formulates itself newly here. And feel free, if what is being said does not exhaust what one would like to examine, feel free to bring it up in a meeting. Feel free to bring anything from a talk up. Please don't agree with what is being said or feel that this has to be bought. We're always ready to question freshly what was said. I may not even remember what I said. Although sometimes when someone says, you said such and such, my first reaction is, I couldn't have said that. But who knows? One can listen to the tape. Maybe I did. We do talk nonsense at times. Want to say one thing and another word comes out. So here's the question, or two questions, which are very much alike. I see things in myself, maybe acting like my father or my mother, that I don't want to perpetuate. And yet the programs are running so deeply that I don't think I can overcome them. Another person said, reactions like take defensiveness come so quickly, so instantly, that it seems impossible to see that reaction before it's already run its course and maybe done its damage, its hurt. What is one to do? It's a common problem, isn't it? A reaction to some kind of a word, something somebody said, so quickly, or to what one sees in someone, so quickly a reaction. Like one's mother reacted, like one's father did. But there was no seeing, there was no attention, so the thing just fired out of the pistol, like automatic. Not just like automatic, it does happen automatically. We don't have to intend to react in the way it happens. The wiring is laid behind the drywall, it's in there. First of all, can one abstain from any notion, any conclusion that it is impossible to catch it, to overcome, to change? And likewise abstain from any conclusion that one can overcome, that one can change, or be attentive quicker. Have no conclusions, one way or the other. Is that a way of being? One doesn't know. I think that's the truth of the matter. One hears oneself or sees oneself responding as people tell me, and I know from myself. After the fact, the program is already in process. Then at this instant of becoming aware of it, because if one didn't become aware of it, one wouldn't be able to talk about it. But one does become aware at one point or another, closer to the actual contact with a stimulus, with a person who said something, or far removed, maybe 5 days later, one realizes, what did I say? What did I do? What did this all bring in its wake? So at one point, if one is at all concerned with finding out about how we relate to each other, there comes attention. There comes awareness. And at that point, what happens? Can one watch that? Become interested in it? passionately interested maybe, or maybe not so passionately, but interested. What happens at an instant of awareness about something that happened a while ago, a few minutes ago, a day ago, an hour ago, years ago? What is that moment of awareness? What is that moment of awareness that we're talking about at such a point? Is that already the beginning of a train of thought, explanation, justification, despair, discouragement, or psyching oneself up to be better next time? Or is that instant of attention empty? Empty of content except seeing what is going on, or seeing the memory of what went on. If it's just a new train of thought starting about oneself or the other or our interrelationship, then it's not attention, it's thinking. And because it's thinking, it is fragmented. It's partial. Fragmented and fragmenting. Because thought, thinking about oneself, thinking about others, can never ever capture the whole thing. That's in the very nature of thought, which comes out of partial memory and is a partial process. Thinking can never capture the whole of what is. It can talk about it and think about the whole, but that's thought and that's partial. It's an idea. So no matter how clever or knowledgeable we talk and think about ourselves, it is a partial process which leaves out a lot. Can one become intimate with that as one is engaged in thinking about oneself, not just get caught up in the content of what one is thinking about, in the content of the thoughts, but in the thinking process itself that is taking place right now? That it feeds on memory and creates memory, and that memory is always partial, always a fragment, never the whole. So, at an instant of attention, of sounding so defensive, trying to defend or aggress against the person who said something to one, and becoming aware of that, an instant of attention, does it immediately have to continue, go on into another train of thought about oneself, about the other, about what one should do about it? Or can at that moment of attention be a quiet listening to what else is going on? The agitation throughout the body. Maybe in looking at that other person, one sees the agitation in the other person. One may not know how to respond, but one may not have to respond to it. We're not talking about learning appropriate responses, but finding out what is going on at an instant of awareness and not knowing how to respond. and therefore listening to what is going on. This is so radical because we've been trained and educated to respond, to know what to do, to have the right answer, to solve the problem. From agitation to agitation, from activity to activity. And here we're asking whether at a moment of attention, which is an interval, a break, a gap in what has been going on, can there be a wondering what is happening without knowing what to do about it? And remaining with that not knowing, which is radical again, because we're not supposed to not know. We're supposed to know. And therefore, it's patchwork all the time. You can say, well, how can, in this humdrum of my daily life, how can there be a moment of quiet attention without responding? I don't know. Find out. Is one even interested in this? Concerned over it? Someone may want an answer. Can one say, I'm confused right now, I don't see it clearly, let me look at it some more. I'll get in touch with you again. Or, better even, are you interested in looking too? Maybe you share my confusion. Can we pause a moment? It's not a vacuous moment, it's a pregnant moment of pausing in the midst of agitation, not knowing how to go on. And yet wondering what is happening right this instant. Sometimes people tell me, if I wonder what's going on in the midst of agitation, want to look at what's going on, it seems I'm blanking out. All right, that's what's going on then. Has one already judged it as being unproductive? And in seeing a judgment coming off, coming on, let go of it. So the mind is blank. It is not coming up with an answer. It doesn't know. Maybe it's blank because it doesn't want to see. It's afraid of seeing. One doesn't know. Can one look and remain with it? Not think it should be otherwise. And also listen to the rustling of clothes. See the light of the sun. Feel the heart beating and the breath. That's all there. Even though a thought may not come up, the mind, as one says, is blank. so difficult to let go of thinking of what should be going on and be in touch with what's there. Which is simple. It's very simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Which brings me to another question asked by someone. I'm here, but I don't really know what I came for. So what am I to do? Saying, I'm here, but I don't really know what I came for. Does this mean that all the ideas one had, what one would get out of coming here, all one's goals and aspirations, wanting something back that happened the last time, wanting something that has never happened yet, has all of that dropped off so one doesn't really know what one is here for? If that were really the case, then there could be openness to the chatter of the jay. So one can examine this very closely. Is there a mourning for a lost goal? Doubt that one will get what one would like to get? Or just it's such an amazing thing, isn't it? It's as though one was lifted out of the busiest of activity onto a pleasant hill where not much is going on. One doesn't have to go to the classroom or the office. Wife, husband, and children are nowheres to be heard or seen. Doesn't have to buy food or cook a meal. Doesn't have to do homework. Doesn't have to go anywhere. Or just walk in the woods. Here, one suddenly finds oneself in a relatively empty building with lots of land around. And one wonders, what am I supposed to do? It's a conditioned response, isn't it? I have to do something, I have to be active, occupy myself gainfully, purposefully. Do something positive, constructive, helpful. Can one listen to all of these inner commands, like to the sound of the jay? And find out in this sudden quietness and space what all is coming up on this inner screen, with the body responding and orchestrating what comes up on the screen. The antsiness, the uncomfortableness if one doesn't have activity as one has every day, the addiction to it. And now maybe a feeling of withdrawal. Can one be with all of that? In an open, interested way? Without falling into the program, you should or you shouldn't. If the program comes up, can it be heard? We talk to ourselves all the time. Not we talk to ourselves, there are voices going on, because no one talking to somebody, it's only voices. There's not two. Language is very misleading. One person recently wrote me, only in talking with someone else do I suddenly come upon what I'm saying to myself silently all the time. And then I can also hear it when I say it silently to myself. Well, right now there's only meeting 15 minutes a day. But can the mind in the silence and quietness can become like a magnifying glass. And one does hear what one says. Do this, don't do that. You should. Overcome. Have a purpose, do something. It may not be verbal, it may be more organismic, feeling pushed or pulled, compelled, uneasy. It's only if one thinks spectacular things should happen at a retreat that one is not in touch with these minute, microscopic spectaculars. That one word coming up can get this whole marvelous, unfathomable system of an organism going in what we call anger, fear, or joy, desire. What's happening? One thought. There's nothing here. There's no line saying you should do this or you should do that, even though this is sometimes projected onto this place or Toni. She feels I should be attentive or I should do attention, somebody said. That's what we imagine. That's how we're programmed. She does say things. What's happening now, but it doesn't mean you have to pay attention to what's happening now. I'm just wondering right now what's going on. In walking, sitting, eating, lying down to rest, in cooking or cleaning out a bowl or brushing the porch. What's going on? Not what should I be doing, but what's happening? The sounds, the smells, and the inner commentary, or maybe the mind being totally absorbed with what went on yesterday or what I hope will happen on Tuesday when I get home. In listening to the sounds, people moving, it dripping, probably from the roof, melted snow on the woodwork. We're using words right now But in listening quietly, with no one talking, is the mind immediately furnishing descriptions, words, and then going off on reacting on to those words. How nice it is, how disturbing. That's the fragmentation. Just listening to the drip and whatever else is going on without a word or without a reaction. It's just what it is. It's undivided. Because there's no one there to judge or know or want or not want. It's just what is. The sound of the drip is not a thought. It's not a thought. Thought is different, isn't it? Can one see that? How the occurrence of a thought is the narrowing, the listening to the sound of the bird. There's nothing narrow in it. It's just there. Unless one wants something of it. One wants to hear it openly. That's thought. Which is a narrow groove. Albeit very necessary in our daily activities. I'm not condemning thought. We're just looking at the difference between open listening and thinking about it. And I'm not saying don't think about it, but listen openly, but see what happens this instant. And not make a thing out of it. We will end here for today.